Jesus promised us that we would have life, and it's before we get to heaven. With your Bibles in Matthew chapter number 7, I want to remind us that in our last series, we looked at making the tough choice. And we said the tough choice is the choice that leads to life. And in our last series, we looked at Deuteronomy chapter 30, where God let the children of Israel know that he had set before them life and blessings and death and cursings. And then he admonished them to choose life, not just for them, but also for their seed or for generations to come. And we know and we learn that even though choosing life is the right choice, even though we know it's the better choice, even though we know it's what God would desire for us to do, it's not always easy to choose life. We learn that to make the choice of choosing life, to make that tough choice, it requires a commitment. You have to be committed to choose life. It takes discipline, that is forced obedience. It requires you to sacrifice. In order to make the choice for life, you have to relinquish other choices and other options. And it requires us to think correctly. That is to make sure that we are applying the doctrine that we are being taught. Church, in these times, it is essential that we choose life, every time. We learned in our last series that we don't want our next choice to violate and to undermine our last choice. Church, we're in a time naturally where so much has changed. You know, everywhere we went, I heard people make this statement that, life is not like it used to be, or when we get back to life as normal or life as usual. But so much has changed, church, over these months. I'm not sure we'll ever get back to life the way it was before there was a pandemic. I think that there are certain things that have changed in how we do things and how we go about things, and it might not ever go back to the way that it was. We're in a time of much uncertainty. Listen, most of us don't know what the afternoon is going to hold, let alone next week, next month, or next year. We're in times where we're facing many challenges. We're going through many different situations. And in these times, as I traveled and saw and looked in people's eyes, you could see the fatigue. You can see the stress. You can see the anxiety and the uncertainty. Even though we may be wearing masks, behind the mask, you can just see in everybody's eyes that we're a nation of people who are just tired, regardless of political party, political belief, regardless of whether or not they believe that there is a pandemic or isn't a pandemic, whether we believe in science or don't believe in science. You could see behind everybody's eyes that there's a level of fatigue, there's a level of stress, there's a level of uncertainty in the midst of these times. And in these times, church, it is essential that we choose life. And one of the things that God spoke to my heart while we were away is that he has provided a way for us to have life regardless of the times, regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstances, that God has provided for us a way to have life. And so many people, because there's been so much change, so much adversity, and so much uncertainty, I can sense that what's really behind the look in their eyes is, my life is gone. My whole life is gone. Everything that I counted on, everything that I relied on, everything that I had certainty about, it no longer exists. And it feels as if my life is gone. But I want us to know that in 2020, we can have life, that our life is not gone. The world didn't give us life, and the world can't take life away from us. And so this morning, I want you to know that for the next several weeks, we're going to be speaking from a very simple topic. Matter of fact, the title is only one word: life. Life. In Matthew chapter 7, Jesus here lets us know that we can have life. It says in verse number 13, he says, enter in at the straight gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. But then verse 14 says, because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leads unto life, and few there be that find it. Church, I have a very simple intent for this series. My intent is for us to find that narrow, straight place that leads to life. I want us to find that narrow, straight place that leads to life. God desires for us to have life. He has made a way for us to have life. And I want us to find that narrow, straight place that leads to life. The purpose of this teaching is to teach us how to have the life that Jesus promised. I want to teach us how to have the life that Jesus promised. The life that Jesus promised us, the life that he promised us here in Matthew 7, the life that he promised us later when we get to John chapter 10. I want us to have that life that Jesus promised us. Listen, it goes beyond just the mechanical operation of our bodies. Because listen, the mechanical operation of our body, that's not promised. The Bible says it's appointed unto every man once to die. And so we're not always going to have this body. It goes beyond that. Listen, it goes beyond just existing. There are so many people who are just existing, just going from day to day, just going from thing to thing, but don't really have any life down on the inside. And I want us to have the life that Jesus promised us. There are so many people just kind of going through the everyday motions with, you can just see a glaze all over them. Listen, existing is not life. It goes beyond the trials of the times that we find ourselves in. I know that we're in the midst of trials. I know, that we are in the midst of difficulty. But those things are in opposition to life. Jesus promised us that we would have life. And it's before we get to heaven. Before you get to heaven, you can have life. In the midst of political unrest, you can have life. In the midst of economic uncertainty, you can have life. In the midst of a pandemic, you can have life. In the midst of tests and trials, you can have life. And you don't have to get to heaven to have life. You can have life right here on earth. So that gets me to my goal. My goal is the same as the title. One word, life. The goal of this series is life. It is time right now to find, experience, and maintain life. It is time right now to find, experience, and maintain life. Excuse me. When I talk about finding, experiencing, and maintaining life, talking about the life that Jesus promised. Church, I want you to know that when I talk about life, I'm not talking about being reckless, and I'm not talking about being careless. I've heard people who profess to be Christians say things like, I don't have to take precaution. God's going to take care of me. I'm not going to worry about what's going on. God will look out for me. If I live, I'm going to live. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die. But I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm not talking about being reckless. I'm not talking about being careless. I'm not talking about ignoring the realities of what's happening. I'm not talking about being oblivious to what trials or tests we may be facing. But I'm talking about living within the confines of our faith. I'm talking about us receiving the life that Jesus promised us. And I want us to know that we can have life. And I don't want us as a church, and I don't want us as Christians waiting on a vaccine thinking that's going to give us life. I don't want us waiting on an election thinking that once this person is in office or someone else is out of office, and we do want someone out of office, but I don't want us to think that a change at the presidency is going to give us life. It's going to make some things better, but it's not going to give us life. I don't want us to think that if we get past a certain season, once we get past the winter months, or once, because many people were waiting for the summer, once we get into the summer, things are going to I'll get my life back when the summer comes. Well, summer came and you didn't get your life back. Now people are worried that they're going to lose their life because the fall has come in. But they're hopeful that they'll get life back when a vaccine comes. Listen, none of these things have to do with life. They're trials, they're adversities, they're tests, but it's not life. There are college students who are depressed this morning because they're not physically in class, or maybe not on their campus as others are. They think they don't have life because their life has been taken away. There are people who are depressed in the body of Christ right now because they're not physically assembling in church, and they feel like their life has been taken away. But church, I want us to get to a clear understanding of what life really is, because if you're waiting for a natural change to cause you to have life, you missed why Jesus died for you. You missed what he did for you on the cross. If you're waiting for something to change in the natural for you to have life, then you have missed what God did for us through Jesus Christ. The pandemic did not give you life, and the pandemic can't take your life away. And that's why my goal is that we have life. So I've got 7 objectives. I want to teach us 7 things. I want to teach us, first of all, what is life? And then secondly, I want to teach us how to find life. And then third, I want to teach us how to have life in this present time. How do we have life in this present time? And then fourth, I want to teach us how to have life in my present state. I want to teach us how to have life in my present state. And then fifth, I want to teach us how to live in peace. Don't we need that? We need to know how to live in peace, but you got to wait till the 5th lesson. But we're going to get there. My hope is that by the time we get to lesson 5, you'll already have peace. And it'll just be confirmation. Then I want to teach us 6th, how to live through adversity. I want to teach us how to live through adversity. I have a suspicion that there are some adversities still coming that we've not yet faced. And we want to know how to live through adversity. And then 7th, I want to teach us how to have a fulfilled life. How to have a fulfilled life. So I want you to go with me to John chapter number 3. John chapter number 3. And this morning, if you're a Christian, if you've been in and around the things of God, I'm not going to teach anything this morning that you don't know and that you've not heard before. I just want to bring us back to remembrance of some things that we know, that we might be established in this present truth. So subtitle the message this morning, what is life? What is life? To understand life, we have to understand that we are a Trinity and that life has more than one dimension. In order to understand life, we have to understand that we are a Trinity. We forget, Christians, we forget that we're a Trinity. And we have to also understand that life has more than one dimension. Life is not one-dimensional, and we are a Trinity. Now, you know this, but let's just hear it again. We have to remember that we have a body and we have a mind, but the essence of who we are is we're a spirit. Man is a Trinity. We consist of body, mind, and spirit, and it's the Trinity of our person that makes us who we are. We have a body, we have a mind. But the essence of who we are is we're spirit. The real us lives on the inside of this body. The real us dictates what happens with the thoughts of our mind. And church, we also have to understand that life is multidimensional. When we talk about life, there's natural life, there is spiritual life, and there's eternal life. There's natural life, there is spiritual life, and there is eternal life. And since really March of this year, most of us, if we are honest, have only focused on a singular dimension of life, and that's our natural life. We have been consumed, obsessed, and I would even say overwhelmed with our concern for our natural life. I'm going to say that again. We have been concerned, consumed, and if we're honest, overwhelmed by the concern for our natural life. And when you get so preoccupied on just one dimension of life, that causes you to neglect the fact that there are other dimensions. You know, your life is not just your natural life. It's also your spiritual life. And guess what? There's also everlasting life. And so when we talk about the goal being life, we want to have a maximized natural life because we have spiritual life, so that in the end, we'll have eternal life. When we talk about life, we want to have a maximized natural life because we have spiritual life, realizing that in the end, we have everlasting life. And what's happening to the whole world, but I believe for us as Christians, we've gotten so consumed with the natural life that we have forgotten that the key to a maximized natural life is our spiritual life. And at the end of all of this, we have everlasting life. And so all I'm going to try to do over the next few weeks is to get us from obsessing so much on our natural life that we forget that the key to our natural life is not natural, it's spiritual. I'm going to say that again. I want to get us to stop obsessing so much on our natural life. I didn't say take off your mask and go somewhere and sit in a crowded room. No. But we've got so obsessed with our natural life that we've forgotten that the key to our natural life is our spiritual life. And so now watch this. We become so obsessed with our natural life that the spiritual life has started to lose influence on our natural decisions, because we've been so governed by an obsession over our natural condition that we've forgotten that there's a second life that helps determine the quality of the first life. And I just want to back us up a little bit, cause us to remember that life is multidimensional and that a maximized natural life is a result of my spiritual life. And by the way, if I live a maximized natural life because I have spiritual life, that the end of all of this is everlasting life. And I believe if we can take a few weeks and get ourselves back centered the way God would have us to be, then we can kind of make the type of decisions and do the types of things with our life that will allow us to glorify God. See, many of us have been living COVID. We've been living Trump. We've been living election. We've been living Black Lives Matter. We've been living social justice. We've been living all of these things. And now we are overwhelmed, overtaxed, and overstressed. And we have forgotten that that's not your whole life. It's not even the most important dynamic of your life. That life is multidimensional. There is a natural life, and we got to deal with it. But there's also spiritual life, and there's everlasting life. And as a believer, I've got to see all three in order to have the life that Jesus promised me. Are you all with me this morning? So I want you to note this as your first point. Now, every point is going to begin with the same two words, life is. So if you write it once, you don't have to keep writing it. Life is, point number one, more than natural life. Life is, point number one, more than natural life. It's just a good reminder this morning that Sister Cherry, I needed to be reminded over the last few weeks that life is more than natural life. That I just needed to be reminded that life is more than natural life. Listen, if I needed to be reminded, then I would suggest that maybe I'm not the only one. Life is more than natural life. Life is, letter A, more than the mechanical operation of the body. Life is, letter A, more than the mechanical operation of the body. Life is more than your heart is beating and you're taking in air. Because how many of you know your heart can be beating and you can be taking in air, but you can be dead on the inside? No peace in your life, no joy in your life, no fulfillment in your life, full of stress and fear and anxiety. See, you can be mechanically alive, but dead on the inside. So life is more than the mechanical operation of the body. Life is, letter B, more than the satisfaction of the flesh. Life is more than the satisfaction of the flesh. Life is more than pursuing your own self-gratification. And many of us are struggling because there are things that gratified us that we can't pursue right now. And so we're struggling, we're depressed, we're upset. But life is more than the satisfaction of the flesh. Now, how many of us know that sometimes you can get what you want and still don't feel like you have life? Because life is more than the satisfaction of the flesh. I want you to note this as your letter C. Life is more than the natural world. Life is more than the natural world. Listen, we're contained in this world and we are constrained in this world. But this natural world is not the whole of life. Life is more than the natural world. And sometimes you can get so hung up that you feel that life is only this natural world. But life is bigger than this natural world. This world contains us. We can't get out of it. We're stuck in it for now, and we're constrained by it. We're constrained by its limitations, but it's more than the natural world. Listen, life, letter D, is more than my natural condition. Life is more than my natural condition. Your natural condition is fragile. And let me share something with you. Your natural condition is often unknown to you. I'm going to say that again. Your natural condition is often unknown to you. Say, I know what's going on with me. No, you don't. How many of us have gone to a doctor? They drew some blood or they ran a test, and all of a sudden you found out that you were not what you thought. Your natural condition was unknown to you. Listen, and not just your natural condition as it relates to your physical body. There can be things happening in your natural life right now that you're unaware of. Your natural condition is often deceptive because sometimes when things feel right, they're not right. And sometimes when things don't feel right, they are right. It's like having surgery. When you have surgery, you feel pain, but you're getting better. Before you had surgery, you may not have felt any pain, but you were actually declining. So our natural condition can sometimes be deceptive. And oftentimes we are thrown off balance because we thought our natural condition was one thing. It turned out to be something else. And because we had put too much weight on the natural affairs as being our life, now we think we don't have life. But life is more than your natural condition. Life is more than whether you have a job or don't have a job. Now, it's good to have a job, and it's not good when you don't have one. But that's not life.